When thinking about youth engagement, I think it is important to pause, take a step back, and ask ourselves a few questions. Who is youth engagement really for? Who is it benefiting, especially in the long run? And have you taken the time to think through the why, the who, the what, the when, and how when it comes to truly engaging people with lived experience authentically and intentionally? I do believe there have been strides in the child welfare system to engage people with lived experience more authentically. We have continued to move further away from tokenism and have seen more and more the ways people are recognizing the importance of youth engagement at every level of change. But like many other areas of social change, there is still a lot of room for improvement and steps to be made to be truly authentic and intentional when working with lived experience experts. Oftentimes, when young people are invited to speaking engagements, systems change meetings, advocacy opportunities, and the works, they are being asked to guide the way with their personal experience. Many times, still being expected to share their narrative with folks to provide insight as to why things should be different and how. While I believe there is power to sharing one's story, I think there is a time and place, and the person who is sharing their lived experience shouldn't be expected to do so in order to elicit a call to action, a donation, or a change in policy. The term lived expertise gets used often, but what does that really mean? If you truly believe that people with lived experience are experts in their own right, then why aren't we treated as other experts in the field? Why, as constituents, are we expected to dig into some of the most personal aspects of our lives in order to get folks to see that we know what we are talking about, that we know what kind of change needs to happen, and work together with other professionals to get to the house? Notice I said other professionals. I have come across many of my peers who are so knowledgeable in various areas of the child welfare system, and that knowledge goes way beyond their lived experience. The young people you are so often interacting with have such amazing insights, and although much of the drive may come from our experience navigating the foster care system, many of us also have a great tool belt filled with professional experiences that are often overlooked. Let's return to an earlier question. Have you taken the time to think through the why, the who, the what, the when, and how when it comes to truly engaging people with lived experience authentically and intentionally? Let's start with the why. I think it's important to start there. Let's take some time to reflect and ask yourself, why are you engaging people with lived experience? Why should we? And challenge yourself and your team to be really honest about your why. If it's only because it's something that is just supposed to be done as part of a checklist, which is a culture you've probably become so accustomed to in the child welfare field, you must dig a little deeper. You may be familiar with the kids' game, I see something you can't see. One person points out something they see that the other person may not be able to. This is exactly what happens when we are engaging people with lived experience. A professional in the child welfare system may very well be knowledgeable. They may have done all of the research and taken all of the trainings, but there is so much expertise that lies in having lived, breathed, and navigated through the foster care system that someone who hasn't simply can't fully have. This is why we, as a field, must continue to engage people with lived experience and trust their expertise. Before we move on to the who, you must also be willing to pause and think about power sharing. How much say will the people you are engaging really have in the trajectory of the work you're including them in? Are you engaging them in a way that gives them agency to disagree or challenge the other professionals? If you go back to your why and have decided that you truly believe in the powerful impact engaging people with lived experience can have, allowing space for them not only to be invited, but to authentically participate and lead should be a no-brainer. Now let's discuss the who. Thinking through the who has many layers. One It's important to note that advocates who have experienced the foster care system have shared their experiences in various engagements and how often they feel as though they're not taken seriously by other professionals. They're usually given a good job or a yay you, thank you so much, now you can be on your way. This can lead to people feeling as though they are not valued beyond their personal experience. But along with their lived experience, many people who have navigated the foster care system have also gained professional and/or academic experience that further solidifies and enhances the invaluable perspective they bring. Lived experience experts need to be recognized for the growing professionals they are and treated as such. Secondly, while for some opportunities, it may make sense to consider individuals with more professional experience under their belt, it is important to see the value in lived expertise similarly to how other areas of expertise are viewed. Because remember, they may see something you can't see, and they deserve to be in spaces where they are listened to, taken seriously, and given opportunities that will help them grow regardless of their professional background. And third, we must reflect on the gaps in who is being invited to partake in certain opportunities. These gaps are often due to lack of diversity in different areas, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, cultural background, foster care experience, and what life trajectory the person with lived experience has taken. The folks who are selected are often the golden child, the all-star of foster youth who we deem as people who have made it. What does making it even mean? What assumptions are you making about that young person? And what are the potential consequences? Exiting the foster care system, attending college, and advocating for change using one's lived expertise may not be someone's version of making it just yet. I shed light on this point because former foster youth, and myself included, sometimes feel the pressure to perform perfectly to the standards of the folks who are inviting us when we are selected. We often feel we may not really belong in these spaces, and the word lucky gets thrown around often amongst my peers, when really we deserve to be in these spaces, advocating for change and leading the way. I also think the word lucky gets thrown around a lot because we see many young people who aren't making it, who aren't getting the same opportunities as us. It's important to take a deep look into who you are and aren't inviting and why. And then, of course, do something about it. Next, let's talk through the what. What is being brought to the table? And I don't mean the what that lived experience experts are bringing, because that's simple. They are bringing in valuable lived expertise. That's something that people who don't have experience can't see. But what are the people you are engaging gaining from being involved? What kind of professional development skills are they being given the opportunity to gain? Often, the what's that other professionals get from lived experience experts aren't reciprocated. The other professionals get their names on the reports, the presentations, and additions to their portfolios, and the people with lived experience get the opportunity to share their story. When in reality, they are providing so much in-depth insight that is helping transform the child welfare system. In every way that you can, you must think through every opportunity they can be provided to grow as professionals. Provide them with titles that speak to the level of work they are involved in, and explain exactly what their role is so they can use that information and use the skills gained as they continue along in their career. What social capital will they leave with? Can they reach out to you as their mentor or put you down as a reference? These are all important things that may seem small, but can really make an impact and be beneficial for new professionals. I always like to encourage people to think back to when they were first starting out in their career. What supports did you have? Did you need? And what supports did you want? And what can you and/or your team do to provide those supports to the people you are engaging? Lived experience experts deserve so much more than a stipend and a "you are so inspirational" hand clap. They deserve to be in spaces that are mutually beneficial. Let's briefly talk through the when. When are people with lived experience being asked to be involved? Often people with lived experience are invited at the end to be the stamp of approval with actual little to no say about the trajectory of an idea or project because it's nearing the end. It's important to consider where you are in the project and whether your timing for engagement supports your goals for authentic and intentional engagement. How? First, you start back with your why, because again, I think it's really important to reflect on that piece and then go from there. Next, you have to make sure you're compensating folks with lived experience. It's important to pay them for their work and to ensure that the wage encompasses both their lived and professional experience. Further, it is critical to recognize that authentic and intentional engagement takes time. Time to plan, time to prepare yourself, your team, and time to prepare the people you are engaging. It takes time to debrief after meetings, time to check in for understanding, and time to allow for disagreements and shifts. After, you must think through the kind of supports that will be in place. It's best to have a designated point person who lived experience experts can contact and who will check in with them regularly. Even when working through a trauma-informed lens, people with lived experience may still experience triggers or feel the weight of the work differently. Some of my peers have expressed the amount of pressure they feel to get something right, or how tiring the work can be because of their own experience and how it's impacted them and the people in their life. Having someone who understands and can support them can be very beneficial. Earlier, when discussing the who, I mentioned the pressure folks may feel to do great work and to be on all of the time. Let's again remove assumptions you may have on the lived experience professionals you are engaging and ask what supports are needed. Invest in all of the people you engage, even the people who you deem as having it all together, because they deserve to be poured into also. Provide them with feedback to help them grow, and again, give them the opportunities to gain valuable skills that will help them thrive. While people with lived experience should absolutely have the agency as to whether or not they disclose personal stories, it should not be the expectation. Often professionals ask people who have navigated the foster care system questions about their personal histories, expect them to share their information as part of their involvement, or make assumptions about their experiences. Sharing personal anecdotes can be very powerful, but if the people are not properly prepared to do so, or are doing so because it's an expectation rather than a personal choice, this wouldn't be fair to the people you are engaging. And lastly, while I may have listed some of the hows, I think the biggest how can and should come from the people you are engaging. How do they want to be engaged? What does authentic and intentional mean and look like to them? Engaging people with lived experience, again, takes time. It takes thoughtfulness and an openness to shift from how things were done previously. It takes reflection, honesty, and realization that authentic and intentional engagement is ever evolving as we continue to learn and work with new people. We must not forget that people with lived experience are so much more than their personal stories. They have a lot of insights and powerful ideas. So make sure you are providing them with the agency and power to challenge all stakeholders involved. This will be how the best changes will happen. It's important to provide lived experience experts with all of the benefits of being in various professional spaces because we are growing individuals who deserve the opportunities to continue developing. You must be mindful that advocates with lived experience carry the weight of this work differently. It's often a lot heavier, and remove the assumptions you may have of one's experience and what they might need. And again, before going into the who, the what, the when, and the how, start with the why. Start with your why, your organization's why, and reflect on what is needed from there to ensure that you're engaging lived experience experts in the utmost authentic and intentional way.